This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Yesterday we were very focused on the backup related discussion, right? So in general, see, when we talk about backup, there are certain things that you need to understand. So why we are taking backup in order to kind of sustain the business or have the data safe, right? So we call that as a kind of business continuity practice, or we call that as a kind of disaster recovery practice, right? So these are the two important aspects, like business continuity and disaster recovery strategy. So the keeping the backup safe or keeping the data safe, it will help you to bring back the business. But how much time it takes, or how much is the recovery time, or how much data loss we are going to experience? See, for example, if you are talking about backup, let's take Azure VM backup as an example. Okay, so here with RPO, it's only 24 hours RPO because we are taking the previous day backup. And if you go and store that backup, what will happen, it will there will be a one complete day data loss. And on the other side, the time that we take to recover, it might be, because depends on the size of the VM and size of the system, right? It will take maybe 6 hours to 8 hours or whatever, more than that. So until that time, the business will experience downtime, and also the delay is very very high, right? So backup can act as a measure to kind of bring back the systems or bring back the business application, but there is a lot of delay in that. So in order to have much more resilience, or in order to have high availability without a lot of downtime, Azure provides you two different solutions. The Azure backup solution is all fine. Okay, so this will help you to preserve your data, or keep your data safe. Okay, and you can recover or restore from that data. So that is something which is possible. Okay, recover or restore the data or information, whatever. But when you think about downtime, the time taken to recover, and time data loss in terms of um, data loss, right, and data loss incurred. So these two plays a major decision making point when it comes to how we go and choose a business continuity or disaster recovery strategy. Okay, so definitely you will have the backup safe, you will have the data safe, and you can recover. But some organization cannot withhold or cannot stand with this kind of downtime and failures. So they might have their own organizational limits, or they would like to have the business up and running in a much high availability or with higher SLA, right? So if you want to keep your business application and workloads up and running, even when there is a major disaster in one of the site, or major disaster in the device or whatever, right? As I told you yesterday, in IT, everything fails. Okay, so you have to be prepared for that. Everything fails all the time. This is the IT strategy, right? This is how the electronics component or the IT will work. So sometimes the failure might be small scale event, like it might be a disk failure, or it might be a server failure, or it might be a small human error. But sometimes it might be a colossal event also, meaning it can be a complete region outage. It can be a complete natural disaster. It can be a complete bomb blast in a particular data center or a region, right? So there are some small scale event that might happen, there might be some colossal event that might happen, there might be some large scale impact. So how we are prepared for those different situations? So how do you prepare for those events? Okay, that is what is actually the concept of business continuity and disaster recovery. So some people, for what do you call the non-business critical application, they will go and take backup. Okay, that is the first strategy that most of them will take. They will go and take backup for their application if it is not non-mission critical. So it is non-mission critical application, and they want to kind of have some data safe, and they want to recover later. And some companies, they will go with second strategy. The second strategy is something called pilot light, or they call it as warm standby. So there are some different strategies and different patterns that are available. So they call it as pilot light, meaning they will go and keep their snapshots, or they will go and keep their images and all those things stored in secondary region or secondary location. Okay, it might be for on-prem and cloud, or it might be region 1 and region 2 in Azure and so on. So here only the snapshots or images are stored. There is no VMs up and running in second region or the second location. The strategy 3 that they will take is actually a warm standby, or kind of warm standby. Warm standby meaning it will be a kind of failover concept, like an active passive. So the secondary location, the VMs will not be active unless there is a complete outage on the primary region. It will be like an active passive setup. And the fourth strategy is something they call it as multi failover or multi-site concept. They will have a active system. So if primary region goes down, the secondary region will still continue to provide you service. There will be some DNS based load balancer or some traffic manager that will be sending traffic to both the regions. Okay, so region level or between on-prem and the cloud, right? So these are four different strategies that they can take based on the workload importance. If your workload is very highly critical, then you need to go for multi-site. So that's where the RPO, RTO comes into place, right? So if you look at here, we need to compare two things. Always, there are two aspects to the decision making, right? So how much complexity it takes to set up this. Okay, so if you want to have a multi-site environment, you definitely have to set up duplicate environment in both the regions. You need to kind of do a lot of network level investment. You need to kind of have a lot of configurations done, and then you get to reach this particular point. So in a multi-site, the cost is very, very high. Okay, but the complexity is also high. But what is the RPO, RTO? It is very, very less, because there will be, like, for example, if you have a multi-site environment like Hyper-V and Azure cloud, it will take only less than 30 seconds to 60 seconds downtime in order to switch over or completely provide service from the cloud. So that's the level of uptime you will get when you go and set up a multi-site with active concept. But when you talk about this one, the warm standby and the cost will be moderate here. So how the cost will be moderate? Because we will not be paying for exactly same number of instances on the passive location. Only active location will have active systems and usage and all those things. Passive systems will be not heavily utilized, and also we are not going to have exact number of systems on the passive side. It will be like very less licenses and all those things. So moderate cost will be moderate, and the RPO RTO will be medium. The same thing happens to Pilot Light and Pilot Light. Here we are only storing snapshot and images. So if there is some outage in the primary region, from the snapshot or from the images, we'll create a couple of machines and we'll bring the business up. So there is very less time required. We are not going to restore or recover or whatever. You have the image readily available to create more systems. Here also, we save a lot of cost because we don't have running instances. There is no licenses. There is nothing to worry about on the secondary side. There is no data transfer. There is very, very less cost on the secondary side. But backup, the complexity is very low, cost is also very low, and RPO RTO is very, very high. The reason I say that, the time taken to recover, the time taken to restore the data and bring back the business is very high on the backup side of it, right? That's the important thing you need to understand. So as a design engineer, as a solution architect, you need to take decision on what kind of business continuity or disaster recovery mechanism the customer is expecting. So all these things will be decided based on the time that we have for the business to bring back, the business to come back. See, if business says I need, so okay, so if you talk to the customer, so they will say like how long they can, maximum acceptable amount of time after the disaster happens. So after the disaster, how long they can stay without the business processes in place? How long they can stay without the business application up and running? So that is the thing that we need to ask the business owner, application owner. If the application owner says we cannot run the business beyond 1 hour, we cannot run the business beyond 24 hours or whatever, based on their answer, we need to put together a solution. So if they say like we can we have alternate option, we can go and write the bills manually by hand, or we have another option to kind of input the data into Excel sheet and we can upload it when the system is back. So different business operate in a different way. If they have alternate options, then you need not go and make them invest on multi-site or warm standby or these options. So you can give them either pilot light or backup option so that you can recover things faster. Okay, so with multi-site, the strategy is you are having automatic failover completely, like there is no human intervention at all. So you can, if primary sites goes down or primary region goes down, completely you will switch over to the secondary region within 15 to 30 seconds. That's the level of downtime you are having. But this one, warm standby, there is some manual intervention. You might have to kind of the passive systems might have to be increased if in case the performance is very less. You have to kind of work on that. This solution has some manual intervention. Pilot light, you have to spend some time in creating the systems, bring them online, verify whether the applications are up and running and all those things. So strategy 2 can be used for some of the core services. Okay, so this one can be used for some business critical services, and this one is mainly for mission critical services, the automatic failover. Okay, so mission critical means complete business is dependent on that application. Business critical might be like for a specific department or for a specific team of resources. Core services, it's mainly for their back end. It might not be the front end impact. It might impact the application login and so on, but it's not the complete outage for your system. But this one, strategy one, is mainly for the low priority use cases, for low priority use case applications. Okay, so you need to decide based on the discussion with the customer. So this one, RPO, data loss incurred, that means like the maximum amount of acceptable amount of data loss, maximum acceptable amount of data loss, whether we can accept 1 day data loss or 2 hours or 4 hours. Based on that, we need to increase the backup frequency. If they say 24 hours backup data loss is fine, then you can configure a backup once a day. If they say only 8 hours is acceptable, then you need to configure 3 times backup in a day. If they say only 1 hour, you need to configure hourly backup. So that's how you go and decide the business continuity and the disaster recovery strategy. This is for a solution architect to understand. So as a implementation engineer, you don't have to kind of get too much into this. I'll show you how to practically work on the DR and how to practically implement the disaster recovery stuff. But as an architect, there are some architectural need. You need to understand the business application complexity. You need to understand how much the business application owner is demanding in terms of RPO and RTO. So you need to go and define RPO and RTO before you can get into a strategy. Okay, so these are the 4 common patterns or strategy that you can take along with an application owners. Okay, so a lot of things, there are a lot of different complexities. So when I say complexities, see, for example, if you are setting up an active thing, you might have to invest time and resources. You might have to invest time in preparing them. You have to train them. You have to give them the proper KT. So all those things are there, right? So the event can be as small as like maybe one OS failure, or it can be one server failure, or one disk failure, or maybe like it might be a colossal event. The complete data center or the complete region goes down. Some events are large scale also. See, for example, if there is a cooling failure, or if there is a kind of power failure, or if there is a kind of fire in the building, or if there is a kind of human error that impacted the complete data center. So it depends on how significant the impact is, or how much the failure has impacted. So this can be network failure, or OS failure, server failure, or software corruption. Okay, so whatever, this can be a small scale event, it can be large scale, and it can be a colossal event. Colossal is complete natural disaster in that region or in the data center. So you need to be prepared for all such use cases, right? Any questions so far? Any question from anyone?
No, no, Stan.
Okay, perfect. See, at times I tend to go with a lot of information, okay, but that is definitely, this might be useful for you at a later stage. For example, if you are just 3 years, 5 years, 7 years experienced, you might not be in a situation to discuss all these things with the customer, but in the future, you might need this, and also you can understand when you go and talk to your senior people, or when you go and talk to the higher level technical people, you can ask them the question, how we can how they have implemented it, how they have approached it, why they have set up something which is very complex, why they did not go and create a warm standby, what is the reason. So you also need to kind of go and read through the service level agreement, operational level agreement. That will give you more confidence to talk to the customer. If you understand the operational level agreement, how much time we need to take to recover, how much downtime is acceptable, all those things, then it comes off, it helps you to kind of manage things, right? So service level agreement and OLA document or operational level agreement between the provider, service provider, and the customer, right? Between service provider and customer, they agree to certain amount of downtime and all those things. So operational level agreement and service level agreement, how much uptime, how much downtime is acceptable, and all those things. Okay, so coming back to the today's topic, we are going to talk about Azure Site Recovery. Okay, so Azure Backup comes under the first strategy. Now, the Azure Site Recovery will cover most of the second, third, and fourth strategy kind of thing. So second strategy also, we have seen that we have taken images and we can move the image from one region to another region, and we can use that. So second strategy is also fine, but we are primarily going to discuss about the third and fourth strategy, how we are going to use Azure Site Recovery service to help business keep their business critical and mission critical services up and running during major outages like a meteor strike or like a natural disaster in a region. So how we are going to sustain the business, how we are going to replicate the workload. Okay, how we are going to replicate the workloads, either they are either from Azure region to region, or maybe from AWS to Azure, or from on-prem to Azure. So this one can be any specific use case. Okay, you might have as on-premises VMware environment, and you might need to replicate to Azure, or you might have a AWS VM that needs to be replicated to Azure, or one region to another region. So all these comes under disaster recovery or site recovery concept. So we are replicating workload continuously from one primary region to another region, or one primary site to another site. If the primary site or if the primary region goes down, you will be able to run the business from the secondary region or from the secondary site. So in order to understand this quickly, what we can do is we can just look at the first easier option. How do we kind of replicate from one Azure region to another Azure region? We'll also see practical for how to replicate from AWS to Azure, and how to continue to run the business when complete AWS has an outage, or complete Azure has an outage. So we can run the business from one of the location, right? So Azure Site Recovery, it will help you to keep your business running besides a complete site or a region outage. Okay, so that is the level of disaster. So Azure Site Recovery, we can call it as a DR as a service, disaster recovery as a service. Okay, and one more important, maybe it's a pre-sales kind of thing, but I would like to highlight here. So Azure Site Recovery, it is the leader in disaster recovery as a service. Okay, since 2019. So considering the completeness of the solution, completeness of the vision, and the ability to execute the DR, Azure Site Recovery is the #1 product in the market. Okay, so if you look at the disaster recovery as a service quadrant from Gartner, the leader is Azure Site Recovery. Okay, so no other provider solution is as closest to Azure Site Recovery. So Azure Site Recovery is disaster recovery as a service solution. It's a PaaS solution, but it is the leader in disaster recovery as a solution concept. Okay, disaster recovery as a service concept. So Gartner has rated Azure Site Recovery as #1 since 2019. So they are the leader in that. So here, so we are going to use the market's #1 product. Okay, and that is one side. That is a marketing line item. Okay, but still It will help you to keep your business running with built-in disaster recovery. Okay, so it will have the site recovery has built-in DR option. Okay, so even when there is a complete major IT outage or complete region outage, you will continue to run. And the Azure Site Recovery, it is very, very easy to deploy. Okay, I'll show you how to deploy that, and it is very cost effective. If you think about having a DR solution in your on-prem, you need to completely replicate what you have in your primary data center. The primary data center and secondary data center should be identical in order to achieve a DR concept or in order to achieve a DR solution. So that's something, it is very, very cost effective in Azure. You need not set up the complete DR environment. You can just replicate and bring the services up in the secondary region. And it is very less dependency. Okay, there is not much dependency on the network level, on the infrastructure level. Everything comes as a service. So you need to kind of deploy the replication. When there is a issue, like it will automatically fail over, and the recovery process will trigger. Okay, either it can be during planned outages. You can go and bring down the region for a DR drill or whatever. It can be an unplanned disaster also, right? Like it can be a complete data center going down because of unplanned outages. So it can be planned and unplanned outages, but still the end result is your applications will be up and running. Okay, so you can achieve that with very reduced infrastructure cost. You need not invest anything like building the same level of secondary data center. You can just replicate things and you can just pay only for the workload. Okay, so you are completely reducing the infra cost. Okay, so if you think about on-premises, you have to set primary and secondary data center with exact same amount of infrastructure and cost and all those things. Here, we are going to pay only for the resources in two data center. The backend infrastructure and all those things comes as a shared service, so you need not pay for that. And one more important marketing thing is some customers will ask like whether it is ISO audit and ISO 27K certified. Yes, it is ISO 27K certified also. This particular Azure Site Recovery is ISO 27 audited, industry recognized solution, so which you can implement in any payment card industry, or it can implement in any industry vertical. It's very well defined, or it's a kind of well audited tool also. Okay, it can cover for any sized business. Okay, so let's kind of get into today's topic. So today we are going to primarily focus on the Azure Site Recovery. Yesterday we were focusing mainly on Azure Backup. Maybe there are a couple of things which I want to quickly show. Yesterday we were taking some backups on recovery services vault and all, right. And I was telling you that there are two different tier and other things for your virtual machine. So we can go and quickly check that. So we enabled, if you remember, instant recovery option we enabled, or instant snapshot restore option we enabled for the VM, right? So now if I go and check that, if I go and look at the details, there will be two tier of storage. So the data will be in snapshot tier as well as it will be in the vault standard tier on the back end. So from the snapshot tier, you can quickly instantly recover the system. You need not wait for the readiness and all those things. It will immediately start recovering. So as I told you yesterday, the machine was online during the class, and after when we are about to complete the class, I powered off the VM. Right? See, if you look at here, it took a crash consistent backup because the VM was not online. That's the reason it took crash consistent. And when the class was ongoing, it took application consistent backup. So Ganesh was asking this thing, right? So when the VM is offline, so it will only give us a crash consistent stuff. And after the backup is stored in the snapshot tier, it will also take a copy to the vault standard tier because we have configured instant recovery of 2 days. So for 2 days, like if the backup was taken on 12th until 14th, you will be able to restore it from the snapshot tier itself. So that's the way it kind of gets stored on your settings. Okay, so you can go and recover the entire VM. File recovery can be done. You can stop the backup if you don't want to do it. I'll stop the backup because if it continues, it will continue to. I'll also delete the backup when content. Okay, so this testing. Okay, so whenever you complete the class, you can just go and remove all those things. Okay, so that you don't spend a lot of cost. So today we are going to discuss on the site recovery option. This is again part of your RS vault. So whatever content we are going to replicate, either it will go to replication will always go to recovery services vault. The backup content can go to backup vault or recovery services vault. It depends on which workload you are talking about, right? Yesterday we discussed about that, right? If you are talking about blob, disk, and databases, I mean, especially the Postgres database, it will go to the Azure backup vault. If you're talking about virtual machines, SQL database in Azure VM, Azure File Share, SAP HANA, these things, it will go to recovery services vault. Okay, now recovery services vault is used for backup contents, and also it is used for replicated contents, and also it can be used for migrated contents also. Okay, if you're doing migration or movement from one location to another location, even the migration data will be coming to your recovery services vault. Okay, so that is another thing. So now we are going to focus on the RS vault and the replication concept. Okay, let's go and explore that in details. Okay, let's see. Any question from anyone so far?
Stan,
Yeah, go ahead.
you said Azure Site Recovery is they're actually leader in DRAS, right? So
Correct.
is it the main reason because of they have the Microsoft backend backbone network? So
Possibly,
just
see, there
trying
are
to.
a lot of they will. I mean, see, Gartner as a third-party provider or a third-party evaluation vendor, they will look at certain aspects. They will look at the speed of recovery. They will look at the completeness of the solution. They will look at the way that they are building the product towards the future requirement. They will look at the ability. See, for example, they will see whether you can replicate from VMware, whether you can replicate from Hyper-V, whether you can replicate from one region to another region, whether you can replicate from AWS or GCP to Azure. How good is the solution? How good is the completeness? Right? So they will not just look at the speed of the network, but that also will definitely help you in completing the disaster or failover will happen much quicker. So those are all some aspects, but they will look at even other aspects, like they will go and ask some customers how they are utilizing it, whether they are successful in that. So it's not just about looking at the product and confirming things. They will look at the way how it works. They will also get some data from the DR drill exercises. They will get feedback from the customers. They will also ask for what kind of auditing has been done on the tool, whether it is complete or that's what. So I told you, right? The completeness, vision, ability to execute the DR, most of these things will be evaluated. Then they will be rating that particular product.
Okay, Stan. The, another question, but not related to this topic.
Yeah.
So we have seen in the networking classes about the
Mhm.
Microsoft backbone network, right? So
Correct.
I'm just trying to compare Azure and AWS. So
Mhm.
do we have such kind of uh, options? I mean, the technical feasibilities from AWS, something like the backbone network, what we have in
Yeah,
Microsoft.
yeah. So AWS, Amazon also has their own backbone network, yes, but not as huge as Microsoft or as large as Microsoft. Microsoft has implemented a lot of networking infrastructure on the back end, whereas Amazon was completely investing in the infrastructure at the data center level. Within the data center, they have been investing a lot. So Microsoft focused on two different aspects when they started the cloud business. So they started investing heavily on the networking space, because they are providing the global services like Microsoft Office 365 or M365, Dynamics, CRM. So these are all consumed over the internet, right? They know, like without a proper networking backbone, without proper networking infrastructure, they cannot provide adequate services or performance. So they have done it with complete vision towards the future. Okay, but for my Amazon, they did not have any kind of competitive product which is very robust as Office 365 or Microsoft 365, right? So they did not find immediate need for their networking expansion, but they are also doing it. Okay, so in maybe next couple of years, they will also compete with Microsoft. They also have the solution in place currently as well.
Okay, so
Yeah,
AWS also have their own
their own
backbone
network
network,
backbone. Yes, yes,
but
definitely.
not
Yeah,
like Azure, the wide range, but still
correct.
they have.
They
Okay,
have,
okay,
and they don't have a kind of global coverage, and also they don't have a lot of junction points, meaning like Microsoft gives you connection points in almost all the major cities. So that is also a very important thing that we need to look at. But Amazon does provide connections and stuff, but the vendor relationship or the integration with different service provider and the network provider, it is not as huge as Microsoft's network as on date, but they are definitely trying it out. They are in discussion. They will be expanding themselves in next couple of years. Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Stan.
So yeah, fine, fine. That's fine. So now let's look at an option for doing a disaster recovery for some of the virtual machines. See, currently these virtual machines are currently stopped, right? I'll just start one of them. Okay, I'm not sure whether we have any web page and other things on this VM. I'm not sure about that, but let me delete this one. And as you said, with all these fundamental things, your network infrastructure plays a very, very vital role. And if the data transfer is very slow, or if everything is screwed up in the network, then RPO, RTO will take a major hit. So networking plays a very vital role, as you highlighted. So let's go and check if there is anything on this particular machine. I don't think so. We just created the VM, empty VM, right? Yeah, that doesn't have anything. So I'll quickly log in and maybe I can just set up a website or something like that on that VM. So we'll also try and complete the AWS to Azure replication if possible, or else we might have to spend some next Saturday on that particular aspect. Let's try as much as possible. We'll complete today, or else we'll push on to the next weekend. So we'll try to go one at a time or one step at a time. Okay. Okay, I'm not speaking anything. I'm just enabling these features. I'll just go and okay, it's already off. Okay, good. Okay, let this come while that is happening. So here, if you go to the operations, you have the options called disaster recovery. Okay, this is the option that we generally use for DR purpose. When you want to replicate from one region to another region, we have to do this. Okay, so if you look at the options here, if you do it within Azure platform, it is very straightforward. You can replicate to the region of your choice. Okay, you can move it to Australia, you can replicate it to India, or you can replicate to any location in the globe. So that is the level of option you get. So you can replicate your virtual machine to any other region for business continuity and disaster recovery requirement. So with Azure Site Recovery, you can enable that quickly. Okay, this is mainly to replicate and keep the data available in a secondary location. That's the primary objective of site recovery. Okay, and you can select any region of your choice. Okay, let's click on the next advanced settings. I'll select West US only. So in order to do that, we need to have all these things prepared on the target side. See, when you go and create a VM on the primary region, you know what are the different things we need, right? You need to have an active subscription. You need to have a resource group. You need to have a kind of network, which is nothing but virtual network. You need to have a subnet. You need to have some kind of prerequisite settings on primary and secondary region, right? So here on the secondary location, you don't, by default, if there is no network or resource group, it will go and create a new resource group with the name -ASR, Azure Site Recovery. So this is an exam question also. Okay, when there is no resource group on the destination region, it will go and create a resource group with the same name as that of the source with -ASR, Azure Site Recovery. Okay, same for virtual network and same for the other aspects also. So if you look at here, it will also create a virtual network with the same name and -ASR. So if you want to create only one instance on the destination, so source and target is the primary and secondary region. So we have one source region and we have another target region. Target is the secondary region here in this case, and here it is the primary region. Okay, by default, it will go and create a -ASR in the virtual network also. Azure Site Recovery. Let's mute the line. Okay, sorry about that. So now it is asking us whether we not need to get it into an availability set or whether we need to kind of put it into a single instance. You can also create multiple VMs and place them in an availability set. You have the options to increase. You can also select different availability option. You can select single instance on the secondary location, or you can go for availability set also. Okay, so that you get much better availability on both primary and secondary. You can also replicate in multiple zone if the secondary region supports it, or else you can just select availability set only. Okay, so you can select availability zones if the secondary region supports it. But for now, to start with, we'll go with single instance, and there is no proximity placement group as of now we have created. And we can just go and click on next, or we can also look at the other settings also, like what kind of storage we are going to use on the destination for storing our VM. So if you expand this, you will see the data. So it is going to create two things. Okay, one is the replicated disk and the other one is the cache storage account. So for caching, there will be a storage account. Whenever you replicate data, there needs to be some kind of caching, right? You cannot pass from source to destination without caching. So you need a caching location and the destination disk storage location. So there are two locations that is needed. So you'll have a storage account created for that. And again, this storage account or the storage disk, it will have the same exact name underscore OS disk. And if you want to change the replica disk type, you can change it. Whether if you want to have standard SSD or higher or lower category, you can definitely change it. Okay. So you are going to replicate the storage disk from, it's a disk level replication, I would say. Okay. So whatever we are seeing from Azure region to another region, it's a kind of disk to disk replication or disk level replication. Okay, and if you look at here, this is the recovery services vault details, which recovery services vault we are going to use. If there is no existing vault, it will go and create a new vault with the region name. And it will also create a recovery services resource group for that particular RS vault. And replication policy is something you can look at in higher detail. So as of now, it's a 24-hour retention policy, meaning there is an RPO of 24 hours by default, but you can change it if in case you want to do that. Okay, I'll show you how to modify these settings for now. So then comes the replication settings. Okay, so what is the RS vault details, what is the replication interval and all those things. Okay, next is the extension. If you want to add any kind of additional updates, or if you want to do Windows update or Linux update, or if you want to use any automation as part of the replication, you can also do that. But let's not complicate things for now. Let's go and review the start replication. See, if you look at here, it is going to create all these things in the new location. So wherever you are seeing new, it is going to create them. Okay, it's not copying like that. So if you look at here, it is going to create a new resource group. It is going to create a new virtual network, and also it is going to create a new storage account and so on. So there are a lot of things that gets auto created. Even you need not go and do it manually. Okay, so on the basic screen, you get the option to select the location, the destination region, and you can go and start the replication. Okay, once you start the replication, what will happen? It will go and create all the necessary things on the destination. So I'll show you that quickly. Okay, whether that IAS is complete or not. Okay, it is all done, right? Okay, let me just go and make some small changes on that particular web page. So this is the one, east to west. US. Okay, fine. Okay, perfect. So let's start. I mean, did we start the replication already, right? We started the replication. Okay, let's go and check that. So it is creating the target resources. Okay, let's wait for these new things to create. Only after the new items are created, then it will start with the replication. Okay, let's go and check that. Let's go to the West US location and see whether the resource group is getting created. So if you look at here, it should have started. Okay, not yet. Okay, let's give it a couple of minutes and then I will check.
Yeah, I can see that the site recovery vault RG's created
Oh, this one.
stand.
Okay.
Yeah.
This might be for, okay, let's see. Yeah, looks like it is just created, right? Activity log. So this is the same name which we had here. I did not notice it properly. Let me check. Okay, let's look at the
Okay.
timestamp. Yeah, possibly you are right. Okay, I did not notice the last couple of items. Okay. Yeah, it's only, yeah, it has just created few seconds ago. You were right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it is creating that site recovery vault in the secondary region and it is preparing the system. And if you look at the details under the activity log, you'll be able to see it. Yeah. Okay, let's give it a couple of minutes. So it's going on. Okay, you can see that the automation account, even the site recovery vault is also now created. Okay, and you can start seeing the replicated items here. So yesterday we were looking at the backup items only. Today we have to look at the replicated item screen because we are working on site recovery. Either you can go to the VM and enable it, or you can also click this enable site recovery. It will give you the same option. Okay, it will give you the protection for Azure VM to VM or VMware to VM, sorry, VMware to Azure or Hyper-V to Azure. So we'll see AWS to Azure shortly, but so these are the different site recovery you can do. Currently, we are replicating from one Azure region to another Azure region at the Azure VM level. That is the primary lab we are looking at. We'll also look at the other cloud to cloud lab also shortly. So we can also replicate from VMware to Azure. We can also replicate from Hyper-V to Azure. This is from on-premises to Azure platform. This is AWS to Azure or AWS or another cloud to Azure. Everything is supported using site recovery. Okay, let's wait for a couple of minutes. You can go and check the VM now. Okay, it's going on. You can see that here. So first thing is it's going to create a site in the first primary and secondary region. It has created a 24 hours retention policy. It has created a protection container on the East US, and it has started mapping the network. Okay, it has created a VNet. So it's going on. Okay, so let's give it a minute. Okay, it will take some time. Okay, let's not urge anything here. Meanwhile, okay, so even for the yesterday's class, we need to do a lot of cleanup. Okay, so that cleanup itself is going to take us some time. See, if I go to the backup related things, the backup infrastructure here, you will start seeing the on-premises in servers, right? Whatever we created yesterday. So those servers will be listed here. Whatever the storage account which we linked yesterday, all these things will be here. So we have to go and clean up. Otherwise, the cost will still be there. Okay, maybe while the replication is happening from East US to West US, I'll kind of do some cleanups here so that you get to understand few things. With the limited time, I mean, I thought of even showing the AWS to Azure in parallel. Okay, but let's not confuse too much. Okay, let's go one by one. Okay, this is taking too much of time. See, if I want to kind of yesterday, whatever the file share or blobs, I was registering the storage account with the vault in order to store the contents inside the vault, right? So when we register it, the storage account will also get registered to this. So you have to go and unregister it. Otherwise, you will be having the same link. Okay, so let me say for testing. So it is saying to unregister storage account, you have to stop the backup and delete the backup data. Only then you will be able to unregister it. So you have to go and do that. Maybe if you have given 2 days retention and so on, you will not be able to even clean that up. Let's try that. Okay, that's why I told you for cleaning up, you need to spend some time. Okay, so I have to go and clean this up first. Also, I think one more question was raised yesterday. I'll kind of explain that as well. Okay, with multiple tools and multiple vault and different management stuff, it's very tough to handle how things are being managed, right? So what Microsoft has done in the recent past, they have integrated all of them to one single console. I'll show you that, both backup, disaster recovery, and all those things. So that's the message you are seeing on the top here. If I go here, there is one more new option that they have given, is the backup center. You can go to backup center and you can manage all the different backup jobs across your site recovery and what you call backup and all those things. So you have a kind of complete visibility or view, what backups we are doing, what replication we are doing. So everything will be monitored, can be monitored in one single view, backup center view. Okay, all the backup, whether you are doing it in RS Vault or whether you are doing it in backup vault, everything can be monitored in one central location. Even the backup report can be taken for all the backups happening in backup vault as well as recovery services vault. Earlier, we need to go to specifically RS Vault and take backup and take the report from the RS Vault if the business is asking for the report. So it is like kind of two reports that we need to kind of take and kind of handle things. But now at least they have consolidated them into one kind of view where you can take a complete report. You can also send email, okay, after every week or after 2 or 3 days, you can continuously send report of your backup compliance and all those things. But this backup center has simplified a lot of things, especially from governance aspect. You get to see the complete view on what are the different backups happening to this vault and other things. You can see how many backup vault is there, how many recovery services vault is there, what kind of activities are going on. So everything can be viewed on a single pane of glass. So that's the beauty of backup center. This is a kind of consolidated screen or dashboard where you can manage the backup, replication, recovery, and you can pull a report for all the different activities going on. Okay, so that is one useful tool that they have given in the recent past. Okay, now let's see. Let's refresh. Okay, we have cleaned up the data now. Now we should be able to go and remove that from the backup infrastructure. So you need to go step by step. You need to practice. Okay, so only then you will get to understand these things. One second, guys. Sorry, guys. Let's see what happened. And registering is in progress. Okay, it's already in progress. Okay. So we need to kind of do things step by step. Okay, then only you will be able to remove all these things. You need to unregister. You need to clean up the data first, the backup data. Then only you will be able to unregister and clean up all these things. After the lab, kind of do do that properly. Otherwise, you will end up paying cost for that. Okay, let's go and check what's going on with the replication. Okay, perfect. So now the replication is going on. It is enabling the protection. Okay, and once after the protection is enabled, you will be able to check the latest recovery point. Okay, so you can click on this option to view the complete details, what's going on and so on. See, what has happened is it has installed the mobility services agent. This mobility services agent is the main service for the replication and the migration and so on. So this is the kind of agent that will move the data. It will help you to copy the data from one primary region to another region at the disk level or at the storage level. This mobility services agent plays a very important role. Okay, now the enable replication is done, and now it is starting the initial replication. Okay, so once the initial replication is complete, you will start to see a kind of a disk image on the destination location. I'll show you how to do a failover, how to clean up the test failover and all those things, and we'll have to understand all these things on the top here. Okay, these options are very much one and the same in either you do the replication from on-prem or other cloud or whatever. The options are almost the same. Okay, so you need to understand that properly. Let's give it a minute. Okay, so it's going on. Meanwhile, any questions from anyone? Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So we'll also see how to migrate a database, how to migrate options to migrate the application services. So all those things we'll look into it. Okay, perfect. So now the initial replication is also done. You will get more options now. Okay, you also have the option to look at the synchronization status, how much retention policy we have configured, which account is used for catching. So you can also go and look at what kind of data it is catching and so on. So you can go to the secondary region, and you can also look at the catching information on the storage account. You can go to the containers. You can see these are the information that are getting cached up, the ASR. Okay, so you can see that there is a disk that is being replicated. When we were discussing the network, I mean the storage class, I told you, right? All the VHD should be stored as page blob. So it is storing the replicated content as a storage, a page blob. And you can see that there are a lot of contents that are getting created. This is the caching location. The actual data will be stored in another storage. Okay, just go back here, go to the storage account. You can see that there is another okay, let's wait for a couple of minutes so you can see that contents also coming in. Okay, it will be under the container. So now the data is still replicating. Okay, you can see the status. So maybe after a few minutes, you can start seeing the data has started drastically increased on the replication level. Okay, it's still 0% synchronized. Okay, that's the reason we are seeing only bytes of file there. So after few capacity of data is copied, then you can start seeing more data. Okay, it's 127 GB, right? Only nothing is copied over it. It's just synchronizing. So it will take some time. Okay, while that is happening, I'll talk about few things here. Okay, so let's see. Maybe let's start with the theory portion of the migration also, or when I say migration, okay, so when you do a kind of replication and have both of them active, then that is called the DR concept, or business continuity concept. But if you are moving, if you are replicating from one location to another location and bringing down the primary location, then that is called what you call the migration, or transition from one location to another location. So in general, there are some business driver, like why we need to do this, or how these things are justified, right? So when you talk about migration, or a use case for movement out of a particular current location, there are a lot of different business drivers, right? See, when you talk to the business, if you are a solution architect or if you are an enterprise architect, the customers will talk to you in few aspects. Like they will say, like, there is a current data center lease that is expiring. Okay, they might be hosting their services infrastructure in particular data center. Their lease might expire, or they will say, like, there is a lot of end of life hardware. Okay, there is a lot of end of life infrastructure or operating systems, okay, or software and so on. So they will say their softwares are very legacy, or their applications are very old. Okay, they want to modernize it. And some people will say there is a lot of performance issues and there is a lot of connectivity issues. We are providing services to internet and all those things. And some vendor, they will directly get inside the point of hybrid strategy. Like they want to have multi-location to have some kind of DR options or business continuity options and so on. So when you talk to customers, they will bring up such points. Okay, they will talk about the data center issues. They will talk about the hardware, either storage or server or whatever, and they will talk about these things. See, if some customer has already implemented, or someone has already invested in infrastructure very recently, okay, then you have no option to talk to them in terms of migration or transformation, or getting into cloud. There is no option to do that, because they have recently invested in infrastructure aspect, and they have to reap that back, or they have to kind of get the revenue back out of their investment, right? So they will plan to run at least for next 3 years, 5 years. They will try to run utilize the hardware, and then only they will be moving out of that particular infrastructure, or data center or whatever. So if there is a customer who is always who is currently talking about their legacy application and legacy OS, outdated hardware, firmware, and they are talking about, like, there is a lot of availability issues with the current environment, and there are some a lot of cost that is being spent on the current infrastructure. So these kind of things, it's an eye opener to get them into a discussion for migration or a discussion for movement to cloud, or getting them re-platform to cloud or re-hosted to cloud. So you can talk to them. So there are you can explain them the advantages of going with the cloud instead of going to a different data center, or instead of refreshing the data center, or instead of investing more on the new hardware and stuff. You can tell them about how to uh, get them the cost benefits or the performance abilities or the DR options that the cloud provides. Okay, this is when you need to bring these points and help them understand the advantages of having a hybrid strategy or cloud first strategy or whatever, and bring them to the cloud. So you cannot go and sell the migration, or you cannot go and make the customer come to cloud when they have all recent technologies or latest infrastructure, or if they don't have any challenges in the current vendor, they will not try to move out. So if there is a kind of challenge with the current vendor, okay, so or if they want to change the vendor, that is also a good opportunity to bring them to cloud and support it in a new environment. And also, like if they say like a lot of network level outages are coming and they want to kind of do a global market expansion, they want to grow their business in different region. So these are all some pointers, which is a kind of option where you can explain more about cloud, explain more about the uptime, flexibility, scalability, and whatever we discussed on the day one class, right? You can explain them about the benefits and what cloud is going to bring to them, and you can ask them to migrate to the cloud, right? So you need to talk to the right stakeholders. You cannot just talk to a lower level people and get these done. You need to talk to a high level stakeholder who is a decision authority, who is a person who can take decisions on the future roadmap and so on. So the business outcome should be like they have to kind of understand their benefits by going to a hybrid cloud approach, or going to a cloud first approach, or moving to a data center. So the business outcome should be tangible. They need to understand, they need to we should be showing them the measurable outcome of coming to the cloud. Okay, so all these things why I'm explaining. So if you are going and talking to a customer, you cannot just go and tell them bluntly that come to cloud and you'll get all the benefits. So they should have some kind of pain points, they should have some kind of challenging areas. So after you move to the cloud, you have to show them the benefits of the challenges that they have. So these are the different challenges that they have explained, right? And we need to show the benefits on what they are going to get after migration to cloud. So this is a kind of measurement criteria, or the way that you can say that these are the benefits you have got after coming to cloud. See, you have to overcome some challenges. Otherwise, like why customer will come to you, right? So you have to give them that these are the benefits after you come to cloud. You need not worry about the data center, you need not worry about the surveillance, you need not worry about renewing the data center cost and all those things. It is a shared multi-tenant model, so you need to tell them like you need not worry about the hardware and OS licenses anymore. So all those benefits, like by just taking the decision of coming to cloud itself, a lot of things will be there will be a lot of things which you can overcome. And other things you can explain about the flexibility, scalability, auto scaling, the uptime, and whatever the cloud benefits which we discussed, right? The tiering of the storage, and getting a lot of different open source products to use with, or to play around. So all these things you can highlight, the whatever the first day cloud benefits you highlighted, we had discussed, right? All those things can be highlighted. So not every customer will be ready to come to cloud at their current situation. Some might have recently invested in a lot of infrastructure. Some might have recently went with a tie-up with a new vendor. Maybe they will take 2 or 3 years to kind of change the vendor. They will not change every 6 months just like that. Okay, so there should be a real reason on why they need to change the vendor. And also, some people will talk about their capacity also. Okay, so they have a very high capacity growth and they are not able to manage the current storage, or they are not able to manage the current infrastructure. The increase in capacity of the asset is keep on growing, and I want to kind of get inside that. So some people will not just like that say that come with all these points. Some people will say I want to go with the all latest technology data center capabilities. I want to use all surveillance and multi-layered security approach and all those things. That itself is an eye opener, that you can say cloud provides you without any much cost and so on. Some organization they will say I want to do an application or platform modernization, or I want to do a service modernization and so on. So those are all good opportunities to discuss further and take them into cloud native approach or cloud first approach. Okay, so by understanding these points as a solution architect or as a enterprise architect, you know what are the areas you need to understand from the customer and suggest for the migration approach, right? So when it comes to migration approach, there are different phases and timelines that are involved, or there are a lot of different stuffs that you need to involve. I mean, you need to go through. So we'll just discuss few things around that, and then we'll go into the other stuff. Okay, so any idea, like when you do migration, what are the different steps you do? Whether you will directly go and start migrating the workload, or you do some kind of pre-steps.
We'll do the assessment first.
Correct. Yeah.
The
First,
source and destination. Yeah.
yeah. Before assessment, you also need to discover the data, right? Some organization, they might have all the data in a proper CMDB, or they might have some kind of configuration management database and performance report, and they might have all the capacity report and so on. But some organization, they might not have it, right? So we need to first go and discover the data. Okay, we need to go and discover the information, then only the assessment will kick in, right? So first step is discover, then assessment, then what will be the next step? Can we go and start migrating now? Are we good?
Based on the assessment, we need
Looking
to
for the
see,
feasibility
which
and do some.
Correct. So what we can say for feasibility check and all those things? See,
planning.
almost
It's a
all of you,
pre-cut over
yeah, very good.
migration testing kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what planning, right? So
Yeah.
which environment we need to migrate first, whether we need to migrate the pre-prod or UAT environment, which workloads are less critical for the business, which one can be migrated first, on all those things. So planning, then comes the migrate, then comes the stabilization phase, or you go and kind of optimize it, or stabilize it and operate it, or the day-to-day operations, right? The final step, right? This is how on a very generic terms, or in generic cloud terms, or generic migration terms, these are the kind of 6 different phases that is involved in a migration approach or in a migration situation. Okay, and not I mean, there are tools which can help you with all the different aspects, but not all the tools helps you with these things, right? Let me help you with an option here. Okay, what happened? So you guys agree to this different phases, right? So these are the different phases when you want to do a migration or transformation or whatever. These are the different steps involved, or different phases involved. And what are the other things that helps you succeed in a migration? What are the important aspect?
See, Stan, we have to see the complexity of the,
Correct.
during that migration. So
Correct.
whether
So
it's a
that those are
business
all,
critical,
yeah. So those are
yeah,
all will be done during the assessment, right? Assessment is to understand the complexity, priority of each of the application, importance of each
yeah,
of the application, all those things, right? So I'll come to that. But what I'm asking
okay.
is there any other aspects we need to think? See, phases is fine, but are there any important things that we need to bring together in order for a migration to be successful? Okay, so yeah,
Multiple
go ahead.
teams from architecture, the technical team,
Yeah, people, right? Very good. What else?
business. I mean, the
Yeah,
budget, maybe
correct.
commercial.
Okay, so tools, budget, whatever, right? And the process is very
Hypercare,
important.
yeah,
Correct. Venkatesh is right. So licenses, hypercare, the methodology, so all these things.
yeah.
Okay. So in general, people, process, technology, these things plays a major role in any kind of uh, migration or any work that we do. Okay, this PPT, or people, process, technology, is very, very important. Okay, without properly planning all these 4 aspects, you will be failing in any activity that we do, any migration or transformation or whatever. See, if the right skilled people is not available during the day of migration, your migration will fail. Okay, so in general, organizations like larger organization, maybe like service provider companies like IBM or TCS or HP or DXC or whatever, they actually go and build a COE team for transformation and migration, meaning center of excellence team, which are focused on migration or focused on transformation. They call them as a migration factory, or they call them as a migration center, or cloud center of excellence for migration. So different organization call with different names, but they have a dedicated people who can leverage the migrations that they've done in the past. They will have a common lessons learned document. They will have a common KB article. They will have all the artifacts put into a common place. So they call it as cloud. Um, as I mean, excellence for migration or cloud migration factory. The different organization has different names. I've worked with few organizations, so I'm just able to give some standard names. So they will be forming a right skill team. They will be enhancing the people's skill in terms of migrating different workloads from one source to another source and so on. And in certain cases, not having people within will be sufficient. Okay, we also need to engage the right stakeholders from the customer side, the strong people from the customer side, like an application owner or an IT architect or an IT manager, should also be involved in the migration. If customer side persons, the right persons, are not involved, then you will also fail in that case. And also you have to involve skilled migration partners, because we are talking about migration to cloud. We are not talking about migration from one hardware to another hardware. So people plays a major role, either internal or from the customer or from the partner. So all these people should have to collaborate at the right amount or at the right levels, so that they can be successful. Then comes the tool. So always people think choosing the right tool will be enough. No, it is not the right thing, right? So right tools is always important. Whether like if you're migrating from Hyper-V to Azure or VMware to Azure or from AWS to Azure, you need to go and choose which tools is very successful or which tools have got very high success ratio. So that is very important. You need to go and choose the right tool, right technology. Like for example, whether we need to do a file-based replication or object-based replication or what kind of thing. And definitely the governance, the backend, as Ganesh highlighted, the backend network infrastructure plays a very important role, and identity infrastructure plays a very important role, because you need to kind of have authentication at the source destination. So security processes should have to be properly evaluated, and you need to kind of use all the right technology tools, whether right Active Directory or backend physical network or security engineers. Like tools and people, they will work hand in hand. Okay, so both of them plays a very very important role. And after all this thing, okay, if you're not following the right process, meaning you have to inform the stakeholders well in advance, so that they can plan the downtime for their application. You have to kind of go through the change management process properly. You have to go and inform the stakeholders, inform the support team. You have to give, as part of the change management itself, there will be a lot of questions, right? They will ask what is the backout plan, what is the downtime window, what is the whether we have done it on the pre-prod or whatever, right? Success criteria, how successful this project, this particular migration will be. There will be a lot of questions that will be asked in the change management. And also we need to create a knowledge management on the other side, meaning you have to go and create a lessons learned document. You need to kind of create a lot of KB articles so that it can be reused. You need to kind of capture all the risk register, issue register, what are the decision making that we are doing, what are the problem tickets that we have raised in the past, whether we have a root cause analysis done for that. So all these things will be very very important. If there is a kind of migration that is a known step by step procedure, you can also create a SOP for that, standard operating procedure for that. And what are the other areas, like you need to kind of understand the gaps and fix it before the actual migration, or you need to kind of take a backup. Like there are a lot of processes, right? Before you start the migration, definitely they will ask us to take a backup. They will definitely ask us to go and talk to the antivirus vendor or the security vendor, whether that will kind of create any troubles during the migration, or it will slow down the replication. So all these things are very important. So not just people, not just tools, even the processes is very very important. If you're not following the proper process, and if you're not following the proper communication channels, even your migration will fail. The last thing is the methodology, how you are approaching the migration or how you are kind of getting to the migration stuff. So what is the methodology? How you generally do a migration? Whether you will go and directly migrate the production workload? You need to build a
First,
business
the
case.
development. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to build a business case. You need to kind of create a justification. What is the tangible benefit? What are the challenges we are going to overcome? What are the benefits you are going to realize? That's the reason I was talking about the justification part, right? So you need to create a method. You need to kind of get executive sponsorship. Without sponsorship from the executive, you are not going to, you will not get budget to do that. Okay, then only you can do a POC. You can perform a kind of pilot or proof of concept or pilot. Then comes the actual migration. Okay, how you are going to do an actual migration, whether you are going to create, move the first non-production first and the production next, and which application will go first, all those things. So those strategical decision or those strategical approach, they might have some kind of migration dashboard, or they might use some toolkit to put together a plan, in which phase which servers are going to the secondary site and all those things. Then comes the tracking, optimizing, and all those things. We need to find a way to track, we need to find a way to optimize, we need to find a way whether the handover is properly happening from the current vendor to new vendor, or from current team to new team, and all those things. Because the current environment in on-premises will be supported by traditional operation team. In the cloud space, it might be a different cloud operations team. So there might be a lot of handover and all those things. So whenever we talk about migration, transformation, and all those things, these four things are very important. If one of them fails, the migration will fail. If you don't have a proper stakeholder communication, change management, the entire process will fail. If you don't have the right skilled person to perform the migration, then migration will fail. So everything is very important, and all these all four are equally important, right? So with that said, okay, so discover, assess, plan, migrate, optimize, and also some people say secure and operate. Okay, not just operate, you also have to check whether you have the right level of encryption, whether you have the proper protection for your data, whether you have configured proper backup in the destination. So you have to check the security as well, securing your data, securing your environment, and so on, and operating your environment. Some people call it a secure and manage, or secure and operate. It's all management, right? So these are the high level different phases involved. And when it comes to Azure, see, these are all general phases, okay, not specific to Azure. If you ask me what are the phases that Azure has defined, I can give you that details. Okay, as per Microsoft Azure, these are the different phases that are involved in migration. Okay, the terms will be exactly the same. Okay, Microsoft Azure phases. So they call it as migration, preparation, and business planning. Okay, that is the prepare and plan is their first step. Okay, then they go and do the portfolio discovery and planning. Okay, then comes the migration for them, migration and validation. The next step is the operate, optimize, and scale. Okay, based on your requirement, you can secure, scale, and all those things. Then finally they will release the workload for production acceptance, and they will take, the operation team will take it off, handover or handoff, and maybe like testing and handover. So these are the 5 phases as per Microsoft Azure. Again, this is this general thing which is easy to understand, but every vendor, they have their own way of expressing things in their language, right? So these are the different phases as per Microsoft terminology. Okay, so at the end, during the discovery phase, what exactly we are doing? We are going and collecting all the inventory. We are going and collecting all the information, CI data. The next thing we are going and doing is reporting, or doing a discovery and assessment. So for inventory and assessment, what are the different tools you have used in the past? Any idea, like which are the tools which has helped you to get a lot of insight? Anyone has used any tools for discovery, assessment, and all those things? Have you used any specific tools?
Snow.
Okay, ServiceNow will give you definitely like CMDB information will be there. That is your ITSM tool. Even Remedy will give you that. So okay. So any other specific tools you have used? Okay, fine. That's fine. Okay, it's not that everyone has worked on migration and transformation, but I'll just help you that. Before getting inside the tool, let's quickly check what's going on with the replication. It's protected. Very good. Meaning it's already replicated. Okay, we can just go and check that now. Okay, let's refresh and go and look at the replication. Okay, it's completely protected. Now the successful test failover has never performed. See, in general, okay, let's complete this Azure to Azure replication, and we'll go and explore the remaining things, the tools, the processes, and so on. Okay, now there are two options. Okay, one is you can do a test failover, or you can do the actual failover. So test failover is like a DR drill, right? So either you can go and do a test failover, or you can go and do a actual failover. Okay, test failover is like kind of testing the failover. This is like a drill kind of thing. It's a DR drill, or it's a kind of business continuity drill that you can do. The actual workload is not going to come up. So what it will happen is you'll have the active load on the source on the primary side, and you'll have a test load to verify and validate on the secondary side. So it will not come as an actual VM. It will come with, like, for example, if you have EastUS VM1, here it will come as EastUS VM1 hyphen test, or test hyphen something. It will have a test prefix or suffix kind of thing. Okay, let's go and do a test failover. Maybe after the test failover is complete, we can go and do the actual failover. So in order for the test failover to happen, in general, what we have is, in the primary region, we'll have an actual virtual network, right? Similarly, on the destination side, in order to avoid any impact to the currently running instances on the destination side, it is always a good practice to go and create a test virtual network, and only need to kind of replicate to the test virtual network. Instead of doing it to the production virtual network, you should do the testing in an isolated network. That is the best practice we should always follow. Okay, let's go and do a test failover. Let's see if there is any uh, network and all those things that are available, or else we will go and create a specific VNet. Okay, this is not the actual failover, but we are going to test whether the application is working fine, whether all the functionalities are properly we are able to access all the functionalities and features. Okay, so we are just going to do a validation. So now
It's
it is
just
asking,
a dry run, right?
yeah, it's a dry run. Yeah, it's a drill. Yeah.
Okay.
And it is telling us this is the lowest RPO that we have. So you can also go and choose a different one. Okay. See, some application you might want to have a application consistency recovery point. Some application you want to have the lowest latest processed recovery point, meaning the quickest way to recover, or latest recovery point. So based on the RPO RTO requirements, you can choose which one you need. So here by default, it is always the lowest RTO. The quick recovery is what they will provide us as an option. But if you're talking about some application consistent workload like SharePoint or Exchange, or whatever, like even some cases AD, they generally don't do that. AD, they use their own native replication. But any application consistency workload, if you want to replicate, you can go for the third one. Okay, so here it is asking us whether I want to go to the actual virtual network. So you can, if you have some other virtual network on the destination, you can choose it. Some people, like most of the organization, they will go and create a separate test VNet in the destination region. In West US, they will go and create a test virtual network, and only that will be selected. Here it's fine. Okay, you can go and do the same virtual network. See, clearly they are giving an information. It is always recommended that for a test failover, you use a different network from the production network, because like it will, if there are some existing machines with the same IP or same configurations, then it might impact, right? It is always a good practice to go and create a separate network for testing purpose. You go and create a in West US, you go and create a separate network. That will be the good way of doing it. Okay, let me kind of do a test failover, and then let's see. Okay, so RPO is only 45 seconds. See, from one region to another region, only 45 seconds data will be impacted. as per the current recovery point objective. Only 45 seconds data is will be going missing. So if you think about backup, think it will be like 24 hours of data will be lost, right? And again, until the time we recover, even those data will be delayed. So let's wait for a minute. Okay, it will quickly come back because it is. You can go and check what are the different recovery points we have. Okay, based on that, you can pick up one. So there is a crash consistent recovery point. There is an app consistent recovery point. So you have multiple things. So within a couple of minutes, you can start seeing that there is a new VM coming up with EastUS VM1-test. And before that, if you want to look at the data, you can go and look at the data here. You will completely see the entire file. Okay, if you look at the WestUS, it is currently creating the page blob. Okay, let's look at the other one. Sorry, the caching is now cleared. There will be one more location. See, now it is moving from cache to the actual site recovery. So this is okay, the 128 MB file, and this is the checksum file. Okay, so there are a lot of files here. It has copied in. Okay, here it is, the complete data. Okay, it will copy in block level, right? So it will copy blocks. It will be creating multiple files, and it will merge it later. So it has copied these many files. Whenever there is a change in the source, okay, there will be a delta that will be getting copied over. Okay, all these will be merged together into a new file, and that will be presented to the virtual machine. Okay, it will take some time. Okay, it has copied only 511 MB now, so it will resync for some time, and it will be available. Okay, so that disk will be presented for the virtual machine. See, it has created a EastUS virtual machine 001-test. It's currently coming up. So it will not have any public IP or whatever, because like it's in a separate network. So if you want to test that, either you can log in and test, or you can also go and attach a public IP to this machine. I'll go and create a public IP in WestUS and use it for testing purpose. So I'll go and create one. See, when we delete the VM, these public IP should go away, but it's still here. Okay, anyway, I'll just create WestUS public IP 1. Okay. So when you are selecting Microsoft network, all the traffic will be flowing through the Microsoft network. I can go and release this and delete this. This is not needed. Disassociate. Okay, so let's come out and let's refresh. So once the WestUS IP is available, I'll go and attach it to the system. I'll associate to the virtual machine. So this is the one, right? EastUS-test. So I'm going to attach it to that particular VM. This is the network interface name for that EastUS VM test-test. You need to check this suffix. Okay, even the network interface will have the same -test suffix. Now, once after it is attached, you can go and verify the network security group, whether port 80 is allowed, or because otherwise you will not be able to test that web page. Okay, let's give it a minute. Okay, it's taking its own time. That's fine. So we can go and check the network security group meanwhile, while the association is happening. Okay, it's there. Second, yeah. So there is nothing. Okay, oh, it's checking currently. Okay, let's wait for. Okay, there is nothing. Okay, so this is where you have to be very careful. So we don't have any kind of effective security rules as of now. We can go and kind of modify that. Quickly check. Okay, there is nothing associated here. Okay, is that association complete? Yeah, association is now complete. Okay, so this is associated to this particular network, and we can also go and check the configurations and the network security group, and we can go and attach any existing security group. So there is nothing here, so we have to go and create one on WestUS. WestUS we have never used since our initial classes, right? So that's why everything is showing empty. Okay, I'll go and create network security group. I'll create one for WestUS. Okay, it's done. Let's give it a second. Okay, okay, now I can go and attach it to the interface. You can do it either ways. You can go to the network interface and associate it, or you can go and come to the network security group and add the necessary network interface. You can do it either ways. Okay, so you can go to the network interface and attach the NSG, or come to the NSG and attach the network interface. Both are same. Okay, at the end we need to kind of attach them together, associate them together. Okay, once all these are done, now you can go and look at the virtual machine. Virtual machine should have a public IP now, because we have created an associated, and we can start verifying that, because we have also allowed 80 port. Now this should show me the East US web page, the East to West US web page that we have given, right? Maybe the network security group is just getting applied. It will give it. It will take 1 or 2 minutes. We'll verify the networking. Okay, see, it's okay there. It's fine. Okay, let's give it a minute. Okay, it's coming up. Okay, so East to West US. So this is the IP address of the test VM in East US, sorry, in West US region. This is the test VM in West US. The name I gave is East US, so that's the reason it says that. And also you can see that this the IP address 13.87.80 is the IP address of the West US VM. Okay, now we are verified, we have checked it, and now you can go and do the actual failover. Actual failover will be selecting this option. Since we have done a test failover, what we have to do is the option of failover will not be available. See, this is screen which was open earlier, so that's why it was showing the option. But ideally, after you complete the test failover, we have to do the failover cleaning. Okay, the test failover contents has to be cleaned up before you do the actual failover. Okay, these options will be grayed out. Only the cleanup test failover option and disable replication option will be available. These are the two options that will be available. And so if you want to go and do a cleanup, you need to go and clean up the test failover, meaning it will go and remove the contents, remove the disks, remove the virtual machine which is created for test purpose, and all those things. And while you are doing that, you can also sometimes you might also need to kind of disable the replication so that there is no new contents coming up and getting cleaned up, but that's fine. Okay, so you are going to do a cleanup of test failover now. If I go and say cleanup of test failover, it will go and remove the virtual machine. It will go and delete the test failover virtual machine. That is what it is going to do. Okay, so cleanup with the cleanup test failover is going to delete the test VM. So after that, you can go and do the actual failover. So now you can see that this VM will get deleted. This EastUS VM001-test, right? It will go off now. Just give it a minute. Any questions from anyone? This is a kind of DR drill or kind of um, a test that we are doing before the actual migration or actual replication. See, even if the primary data center is down, now the users will be able to access the same application using the West US region IP address. That's the kind of availability it has brought us now. Even if the entire East US is down, you'll still be able to access the application using this one. And if you have a traffic manager sending traffic to both East US and West US, either one of the region going down is not going to impact the end user. So that's the level of protection, or that's the level of business continuity this is going to give you. Okay, let's refresh now. It should have cleaned up. Okay, it's went off. Now the cleanup is almost done. Okay, you can see that it's completing the test failover. The completing status has to complete. Okay, once the completing test failover is fully done, you will be able to see the failover option. All the options are grayed out now because the testing is, the cleanup is going on. Okay, you can see how what exactly is happening now. Okay, so from which virtual machine, which caching, and whether it has created a managed disk or whatever, all the diagrammatic things will be available here. Even if you want to look at in a tabular format, you can click on the table view and you can see which are the things that are happening from which region to which region and so on. And if you want to put a low diagram in your LLD or your migration document, you can also add this infrastructure view diagram into your document. Now you can see the failover option is now available. Okay, so it is currently protected and only 13 seconds of delay. Okay, that is very good. You can click it a refresh and see if there is any improvement. Oh, 1 minute. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, 1 minute is also okay. So it's not a big downtime like 24 hours, right? So 1 minute latency is there. That's fine. Okay, we can click on failover. And this time you can also shut down the virtual machine on the source side and bring the destination virtual machine. If you are planning for migration from one region to another region, you can use this option so that the source machine will be powered off. So no one will be making any changes on the source side if you want to do that. But the cutover time is a downtime for the end users. Okay, so this particular actual failover, you might have to kind of plan properly. You need to inform the business. But if you want to have both primary and secondary available, both East US VM and West US VM available, you can uncheck this option and you can say okay, so that the source machine will not get shut down. But if you want to do that, you can enable this. The source machine will be shut down and it will be failed over to the destination. Okay, you can either have both of them available by unchecking this option, or by checking this option, you are going to have the source machine powered off because any new changes coming to the source machine. Okay, let me explain that. See, if you are shutting down the source VM, then this is a migration scenario where you are moving from East US to, or moving from one location to another, either one region to another region, or one cloud to another cloud, or whatever. And without powering off the source, we are going, it's a kind of replication scenario. We are going to have both of them online. And we need to put them back of a load balancer or traffic manager or any DNS routing or whatever. right? You need to bring those two systems into behind a load balancer. Okay, so now let's shut down the source machine and click OK. So let's try that, whether this Azure replication tool is able to go and, okay, see the remote desktop is now disconnected. The VM is powered off. Okay, the moment I gave that, it has powered off the VM and it will take the recent RPO and it will replicate from there. Okay, failover was initiated now. You can see that the source VM is now shutting down. So you can go and check that. So after the primary VM is shut down, the final replication will happen, final synchronization will happen. So all the data that was in the primary will come actually. It will synchronize all the latest changes. Okay, if you look at here, it will be in shutting down status, it's deallocating. Okay, and automatically you can see that it will create a new machine in West US location. Okay, while this is happening, we'll kind of go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll complete the failover concept, and also we'll discuss about the tools, the other important migration scenarios, and so on. So any questions so far from anyone? Okay, so there is no synchronization that needs to happen. There is no changes. That's why it skipped. Looks like it will complete even before the break. But anyway, so let's go for the break anyways. Any questions before I stop the recording?
Yes, Stan, I
Yeah.
have a question here in terms of the
Yes, sir.
load balancing. How they it's a separate load balancer where it directs whatever the
Karthik,
access between
did
two
you attend
servers.
the session where I showed demo for traffic manager, load balancer, and all those things? We already saw a couple of.
No, I
Okay, you
missed
might
out.
have missed it. Yeah, yeah. So we already saw the lab for traffic manager and load balancers. Okay.
Okay.
So I've shown how to add different geographical machines into traffic manager, how to do routing based on the geographic thing, priority. There are multiple algorithms also. So I think
Okay, sure. Yeah. Sorry for that.
yeah, doing
I'll go through that video again. Yeah.
fine, fine. Sure, sure,
Yeah.
Karthik.
Thank you. Thank you, Stan. Yeah.
No problem. Yeah. So maybe I'll stop the
Uh,
recording for 15 minutes. Go ahead. Is there a
Stan,
question?
so the one which we just
Yeah.
initiated is the
Mhm.
manual failover, right? So
Yeah.
there should be an option for scheduling. I mean, not the scheduling, the automated way of doing the failover. Once the primary site is down, so the secondary site, the source VM will be replicated to automatically to the destination VM. I mean, DS
Correct,
site.
correct. See, yeah, yeah, that is true. Okay, so these are all between region, right? As of now, it has to be a kind of planned stuff. Okay, but if the primary goes down, automatically, like if you have a load balancer or traffic manager between them, okay, so users will not face any challenges. Okay, if the primary region goes down, automatically the traffic will continue to go to the secondary region because there is a health check in both of them, right? As I told you
Uh,
during the class.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
for
we
end
are
users, yeah, yeah.
yeah we are achieving this application level high availability use balancer or the traffic manager. That's fine, but
Mhm,
uh, the VM failover, the one which
mhm,
we are doing is a planned activity or the manual activity. So,
mhm.
is there an option that we can do this automated way of failover on
Meaning,
top of
I'm not
the
getting you.
load
See,
balancer?
that has to be done using the traffic manager solution. See, for example, if
Mhm.
this VM is going down, okay, the users is for them is the downtime, right? So downtime is not about machine going down. For if end user, if the application is available, it is not considered as a downtime, right? That is the SLA that we talk about. So for end users, so they will instead of going to the VM1, they will be going to VM2. If the complete data center or the complete region is down, they will continue to access the application or service from the VM region, second region. So there are few more things that we need to kind of discuss here. So like how to resynchronize, how to commit, how to reprotect to the backend, all those things. But automate it. This is the, I mean, the way that automation works is like redirection. Okay, it's not about doing a tool level or whatever. By default, the replication will continuously happen. See, if I selected this option, then there will be continuous replication. Okay, both the source and destination will still be available. If the primary region goes down, still the users will be accessing from the secondary region. It will be continuously happening. The continuous replication will keep on happening based on our configuration. Maybe let me try to understand your question again after the break.
Switch over.
Sorry?
Break.
Sure. Okay. So there was some issue with your audio. Yeah, sure. We'll take the break and come back. Sure. Yeah.
After the break.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, let's take the status now. So we initiated the failover and the failover is now complete. Okay. So if you look at here, after a refresh, so this was in deallocating status, right? Now you will see a VM that is running in West US and the VM in the East US location is now stopped and deallocated. If I have selected the option to not power off the VM, if I have selected the first option, second option, then both the VMs will be running, and you can add both the VMs to a load balancer or a traffic manager in order to redirect the traffic to both of them. Okay, that's the way you can do it. And you can just go and check whether you want to commit the migration, or if you want to reprotect, meaning like if you want to go back to the previous region, or if you want to replicate back to the primary location, you can also do that, okay, from the reverse way around. Okay, so okay, if you want to stop replication and if you don't want to do anything, you can just disable and close this failover activity. Okay, and there are some options which you can actually do. Okay, so if you look at here, there are some options to change the target settings. You have the edit option here. It used to be there. We have already failed over, right? So before failover, if you want to change the compute capacity or the instance size and so on, you can definitely change on the destination. Even if you want to make some network or disk level changes before the failover, you can go and edit and change it. If you want to add more compute capacity, network or disk, you can also do that as part of your failover. Okay, so maybe I'll see if Ganesh, what was your question? I was not clear. Okay, let's see if he's still there. Okay, fine. So any questions from anyone on the failover or the replication one? Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, Dan.
Yes, Dan.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, now let's continue with the tools that we started before the failover from one region to another region. Okay, so during the discovery phase, okay, or during the discover phase, there are a lot of different tools that are available, but most of the organizations, they are using a tool called Cloudscape, which is a very good tool to understand the different systems, understand how they interconnect, what are the dependencies, which server talks to which server at the port level, what are the different ports and protocols involved. So all these things. Okay, so this is a tool from Risk Network. Okay, Risk Network's Cloudscape tool. And there is another tool called Cloud Mapper. This is a tool from Science Logic. And there are tools like Atadata, there are tools like Cloudamize. There are hundreds of tools which are available, which you can do, which you can use for discovering the information. So when I say discover, you will go and discover the information about what are the different systems running, what are their configuration information, what are their IP addresses, the infra network, the storage, the processes that are there, what are the different processes that are running on the system, what are the different ports that are involved, which server to which server communication is happening, interdependencies, and so on. So all these information will be gathered during the discover phase. And when you move on to the next assessment phase, there are some tools which can be used during the discover and assessment phase together. But if you are talking about Microsoft workloads, if your current environment, if your current data center is full of Microsoft flavored environment like Microsoft OS and Microsoft .NET application and database, you can definitely use the Maps toolkit. Maps is Microsoft assessment and planning toolkit. So this is something which you can use, planning service toolkit. or else you can also use, if you're talking about specifically migrate, you can also use Azure Migrate tool, which is a native discovery and assessment tool. You can also use Cloud Amize, which is again, it can be used for discovery as well as for assessment. You can also use tools from Current Technology. You can use tools like Device 42. There are hundreds and hundreds of tools available. Okay, Flexera, Lakeside, there are many. Okay, so for example, why I'm listing these many tools, different tools provide you different speciality. For example, if you are doing a server migration, or if you are doing a kind of virtual desktop migration, these tools can be very powerful. So if you want to migrate from on-premises desktop technology to cloud desktop technology, then Lakeside can give you a very good level of assessment and discovery information. If you are moving from server to on cloud server, then the current tech, Cloud Amize, Device 42, these things can give you a lot of analytics or assessment information. So these are all very good tools for different workload. So today, I mean, this week or the coming week, we'll be discussing on different migrations. So when we come to migration phase, we have different things to migrate, right? We need to migrate server, we need to migrate application, we have database to migrate, we have virtual desktops to migrate, we have different workload that we need to migrate, right? So not all the tools listed above can cover all of them. See, for example, if you're talking about database assessment or database migration, then the tool that we generally use is different. See, for example, there are some couple of tools which we use, like Cloud Pilot and Unify Cloud. These are all very powerful tool for doing database level assessment or database level discovery. Definitely the Azure Migrate or Azure native tool will be very powerful. So which compresses of two different segment, database migration assessment and database migration service. There are two different sub tools within Azure Migrate. Even there are some third-party tools also, like Cloud Pilot and Unify Cloud. So for specific workload, we have specific assessment tool and migration tool. So whatever I'm listing here, it's more focused towards server, but there are other tools also. See, for example, if you want to do a virtual desktop migration, as I told you, the Lakeside is a very good tool, right? That's what I told you before. And there are other tools also. Okay, so maybe some companies will use this track, some companies might use other tools. So for specific workload category, you can use different migration. And any idea, like when you want to migrate data, what are the tools available? When you want to migrate data or storage content, what are the tools that we generally use? Any idea? Have we discussed
We
anything
do
on?
from the storage backend side.
Correct. Yeah, you can use
Snap
Azure Data
Developer.
Box. Yeah, no, Azure Data
Oh,
Box
okay.
or Azure Data Box or Azure Data Disk or Data Box
Data
Edge
disk.
or Azure CLI, or you can use PowerShell, or you also use what is that? The command line tools for migration, the storage CLI tool, right? So there are many tools. Storage Explorer can also be used. When Azure Migrate can also be used. So there are variety of tools. Okay, so when you want to migrate data, even you can use backup tool to kind of take backup and store it in the cloud. So there are variety of tools available for migrating the data. So we have already discussed about this during the storage class, right? So we will be highly focusing on this server migration shortly. So whatever we did using the site recovery, that is also kind of server migration. We migrated one server from East US region to West US, but we'll be doing it from AWS cloud to Azure cloud and so on in the next Saturday class. But for now, also we'll be discussing database migration in the next weekend. Okay, apps migration we'll see next to next week. Okay, not next week. Next to next week we'll be seeing the apps migration, or I think we have Active Directory scheduled for next to next weekend. Maybe after a couple of weeks we'll also see how to migrate the web apps or how to migrate the application level. Okay, so next week we'll be focusing on servers and database migration, and that will be from AWS to Azure. Okay, so we'll have one server created in AWS, and we'll see how to migrate from Azure, migrate to Azure platform. Similarly, we'll have database hosted on on-prem or any one platform, and we'll be migrating it to Azure platform. We'll see these kind of migrations later. But what I'm trying to cover here is there are a lot of different tools available for different phases or different stuff. So for planning, okay, you can either use your own company's migration dashboard, or a lot of organizations, they have their own workload assessment and migration engine toolkits. Okay, there are different organizations, they prepare their own planning tool. Okay, they might also use some kind of Jira for migrating the workload. There are different tools that different organization uses. Okay, so Jira is becoming very popular with the agile approach for even the migration. But there are, I mean, even Azure Migrate can be used for planning as well. Okay, Azure Migrate is the collection of tools. It's like not one tool. Azure Migrate is a portfolio with multiple products within it. Okay, it comprises of data migration tools. It comprises of server migration tools, database, all these things. Okay, it is a combination of multiple tools. Okay, but if you are a person who is really interested in how discovery and assessment, all these things are done, maybe I'll give you the link where you can go and attend a couple of days, I mean 2 hours day session. I think not even 2 hours, it's 1 hour session. So if you go to device 42 webinar, okay, this is a very popular session that is happening. Okay, every Wednesday and Thursday they will be giving a session, free session. Okay, you can attend this training. Okay, for discovery and assessment. If you go here, events. See, they have got different tools, infrastructure discovery, a lot of different tool sets are there. But let me see. Mm. So integration with Jira is for planning. Okay, so storage discovery, they have expanded like anything. Okay, let me check quickly. Visited this page twice. Okay, looks like they have given it as a recorded session now. Earlier, they used to give a kind of live session on Wednesday and Thursday. Maybe I'll check if I get the link, I'll give you. Okay, this will help you to understand how to do a discovery, dependency analysis, and how to do assessment. This is the toppest, I mean, best tool in the market now, Device 42. It gives you complete level of storage discovery, licensing discovery, IP address discovery, certificate discovery. It gives you a lot of features. They have a lot of tool sets to help you with migrations and so on, even transformation, even getting you a complete CMDB listing. It gives you live dashboard about your current environment. So this tool is very popular now, and many organizations are using it for discovery and assessments. Even I have listed it here. It is one of the tool that is listed, but there are other tools which also provide similar functionalities. But this is a partner tool. Okay, whatever I'm listing here, these are all Microsoft partner tool set. These are all authorized tool to use along with your Azure migration. Okay, if you have discovered the data using these things, you can directly bring that data to Azure Migrate tool. Okay, these are all partner tools which are authorized to perform the discovery and assessment. And during the migration, there comes the challenge actually. See, migration, you cannot use the same tool. Device 42 is only for discovery and assessment. But if you want to migrate the Windows server or Linux server, then you need to use either the Carbonite, or you need to use the Rackware, or you can use the Zerto tool, or you can use River Meadow. I think some of you might have heard some of these tools. So you can also use Quarant Technology. So these are all the tools that are partner tools from migration standpoint. If you want to migrate the workload from on-premises to cloud or one cloud to another cloud, you can use these tools like Carbonite, Zerto, Rackware, River Meadow. So these are all authorized partner tools from Microsoft for migration purpose. These are all authorized Microsoft partner tools for performing an discovery and assessment and all those things. So there are some certain tools which can help you do end-to-end. For example, Current Technology is present in discovery, assessment, and even on the migration phase. Okay, so there are some tools which can help you with complete end-to-end visibility. But what we will do is we will use Azure Migrate, that is the complete portfolio tool for doing discovery, analysis, migration, and so on. I'll show you how to do all these things using the Azure Migrate tool, but there are some third-party tools also which we can use for performing all these things. And later, after the migration, like how to optimize, how to secure, and all those things. Those are all using the native technology, using Azure platform, how to do encryption, how to configure backup, all these things, right? So that's the final step: optimize, manage, and secure. So there is no specific tool needed, but you have to do it on the solution itself. For example, if you're talking about virtual machine, you need to go and configure backup. You need to configure proper sizing on the instance size and all those things. So that is the way you go and do it. You need to configure encryption and so on. So for this particular purpose, it is a stabilization phase after migration. So for each of these pre-migration and migration, you have some specific tool set that can be used. Okay. So these are the different tool sets that we have. And okay, we talked about phases, we talked about tools. Now we will talk about what are the migration options that are there, or what are the different 6Rs. Have you heard about 6Rs before? Has someone done some kind of assessment and migration? Oh, okay, interesting. So these are all some standard terms and stuff which comes from Gartner again. Okay, it used to be 4R before, and then it changed to 5R. Now it has come to 6R. 6R means 6 different R. Okay, so here rehosting. Maybe you might have heard about the terms, but you might not have understood what exactly these are, or the difference between them. Okay, rehosting, repurchasing, replatforming, refactoring, and retaining and retiring. Okay, so there are 6 different R. So all of them start with R, right? That's why they call it as 6 Rs. In some organization, they will use 5R or 4R also. They might not take some specific strategies, but these are the general 6R strategy that you can take whenever you want to do a migration or transformation or modernization. You can take any of this particular approach. Okay, these are all very easy to understand. Okay, so when you say rehosting, we are changing the host, meaning we are changing the server hardware. Okay, we are moving from one company's server hardware to another company's server hardware, or we are moving from one server hardware to another hardware. That is the rehosting. See, for example, if I am migrating from on-prem hardware, server hardware, to Azure server hardware, that is called rehosting. Okay, to Azure server hardware, this is all rehosting, because we are just only changing the hardware. The virtual machine will remain the same. The VM will be untouched. Okay, we are just migrating as such. Okay, so the VM's layer and the operating system application will be remaining as such. So replatforming is actually changing the platform. We are, see here, you can, some people use some easier terms, simple terms. Okay, simple terms for rehosting is lift and shift. They call it as lift and shift approach. They just migrate the virtual machine. They just move the VM from one server hardware to another server hardware. Replatforming, we can say lift. We are making some tinkering, like maybe you might be upgrading the platform version from .NET 4.5 to .NET 5, or maybe Java version X to Java version Y. We might be doing some tinkering and shifting it. So we are actually migrating to a platform in Azure rather than infrastructure as a service movement. We are migrating to possibly like you are changing to Azure SQL databases or Azure App Services. We are just repackaging the code. So there is a code change that will happen. This is, they call it as repackaging to support the package or to support the code in the cloud space. There is no major application overhaul, meaning we are not completely changing the application architecture or nothing we are doing. We are making some small code change to be present on the Azure platform. So we are bringing the application to Azure platform, either Azure Web Apps or Azure App Services or Azure SQL database. We are just bringing the services or application to Azure platform level. Definitely there is no major application overhaul. You should not completely change everything. So it is just a small tinkering. Tinkering means, you know, right? Like you're just doing some small changes in order to make it compatible with the new platform, the Azure platform. So we are not doing any major architectural change here. We are not doing any application overhauling here. So definitely there is a small code change. So here definitely we need to involve the application development team. Without their help, we cannot do a replatforming. So app development or programming team is involved to make some minor changes. Okay, so repurchasing means we are dropping the on-premises environment and shopping from the cloud. We are going and running some application on either Azure VM or Azure App Services or whatever. So this is called drop and shop. Okay, we are dropping whatever we have in the on-premises, but again here we need to have a lot of investment, right? So it is like you have to go and invest a lot of money in the cloud side, and we are going and purchasing it. So see, rehosting, it's more of a move to infrastructure as a service approach. Replatform is moving to platform as a service approach. Okay, so repurchase means it can be anything. Okay, you can shop a VM, or you can go and shop a web app, or you can go and shop a SQL database. You are dropping whatever you have in the on-premises, and you are going with a complete new technology in the cloud space. Okay, it can be infrastructure as a service, or it can be a PaaS, or it can be DR as a service, or whatever, right? It can be any technology. So next one is re-architecting. This is the most complicated one. So we are going and changing the complete code to be made suitable with the cloud. There is a very high cost involved here, and there is a very high risk because we are taking a lot of time to because like it is going to be a very high service disruption here, because we are spending time to completely change the functionality to suit it in the cloud, or we are doing an application modernization here. We are refactoring here. We are completely doing the development from the scratch here. We are completely changing for the new business opportunity, or we are just going towards the new modern way of operating business. So this is called as modernization or refactoring concept. This is the most toughest one and the complex one, where the enterprise architect is involved, developer is involved, all the business stakeholders are involved. So the next one is retaining. See, some application you might have recently invested. You might have recently purchased a license, or you might have recently purchased a server hardware, or you might have purchased a renewed the licensing, or you might have invested in something. Okay, so in that case, customer will not be happy to move those workload to the cloud. So we might revisit that after 2 years or 5 years, once after the license is over, or once after the current purchase is completed, once after they get back the investment in terms of revenue, then they will go and think about migrating those workload. So currently we are deferring the migration. We are retaining it, and we will be migrating it at a later time. See, while doing all these discovery, assessment and stuff, we will get to know that there are some servers which has been running in our data center without any purpose at all. Okay, there are some servers they will identify, like maybe out of, if you're assessing 100,000 servers, there will be at least 30 to 40 server no one knows why it is running. Okay, so you will have to tell them that there is nothing. We'll power off the server. We'll maybe keep it idle for 2 weeks, and like cool off period is they'll call it as cool down period. They will power off for 2 weeks and so on, and they will go and take a backup, full backup, and decommission those servers. Okay, there will be a lot of such systems that will be there in your environment. No one will be knowing why it is running. They might have created it for some POC or whatever, and they might have left it like that. Okay, so these are the different approaches that we can go and take when you are planning for any migration or transformation or modernization. See, what they will do is they will put all the CI, okay, configuration item, server 1, server 2, database 1, database 2, application 1, application 2. So all these information will be put in a kind of tracker, or in a kind of migration tracker, and we will be going and entering the approach, migration or modernization approach. We have to say this server will be done using rehosting approach. This database will be done using replatforming approach. This application will be migrated to rehosting model, or some application will be migrated to a kind of replatforming or re-architecture model. So we need to kind of map all the resources with a specific approach. Okay, this is a kind of tool set, or you might have a dashboard which will give you visibility on which server can be migrated when, which server is easy to migrate. It gives you the complexity and priority information by putting all the CA information in a tracker. That is what the migration team will generally do. Okay, so any questions on these 6 different migration path or method?
No, Stan. Good.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so no question means it is good to proceed further. Okay, so if you are a solution architect or if you are an enterprise architect, we need to kind of do a kind of discovery and assessment in two aspect. Okay, many architect will fail by doing the assessment in two different approach. See, for example, we should have to do a quantitative measurement. We call it as quantitative analysis. Also, we have to do a qualitative analysis. I'll give you some examples, no worries. Okay, so when you do an assessment or analysis, some people will do only quantitative, some people will do only qualitative, and they will miss the other area. So quantitative means it is like measuring the capacity, like what is the current CPU, what is the current memory, what is the current consumption, what is the current usage. Okay, so whether in terms of performance, is there any bottleneck, what is the amount of network traffic that is going on, what are the version compatibility. Okay, what are the current versions running, are there any kind of old machines. Okay, whether how much is the current consumption. Okay, all these are quantitative. We are measuring, we are understanding the data platform, what is the version we are running, what is the CPU usage, memory usage, what is the service usage, which server is talking to which server, how much traffic is flowing. So these are all something we need to measure it in a quantitative way. But qualitative analysis is the legacy information, the OS version, whether how critical this application is for the business, how important is the application for their business, where which particular vendors are dependent on that. Okay, so dependency with third party vendor, or who exactly manages it, are there any process dependency, whether we need to involve some specific vendor, or whether there has to be additional investment that is available, whether the current end users are happy about the service, whether there are any performance issues that are currently going on. So we need to understand from the qualitative way also. So how the database schema is currently developed, are there any issues with the end user experience. So we need to kind of qualitatively do the assessment also. Some people will only think about quantity and they will start the migration. There also there will be a lot of challenges at a later time. So we need to think assessment from two different aspects. You need to collect some qualitative information and quantitative information, so that your migration can be quicker. You can have a great success ratio if you have all this information, right? So you guys are able to follow me, like what exactly I'm referring to qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative,
Yep.
yeah. Good. Okay. So qualitative means you need to understand the business priority, like what is the business roadmap, what is the investment they have on their application, whether this application has got a lot of investment, what is the current operational cost, what is the current investment, or whether they are deploying the application using agile model, or whether they are deploying using some DevOps model, or what kind of model they are using currently to create the application, how frequently the application is changing. So whether there is some DevOps implementation, the change frequency of the application. So these are all something which we need to definitely understand. And the other area is the qualitative, the numbers. Okay, how many users are accessing the website, how much time it is taking to load the page, how much time it is, how much time the users are spending on a particular page. Okay, so like numbers. Okay, it's all spending on a particular page, spending on a particular language, what is the language of the application, what kind of development platform they have used, what is the DB version. Okay, so I've already mentioned the version, but anyway, so you can capture all of those. Okay, which system is talking to which system, the dependency mapping. Okay, I think we are captured almost all of them. Okay, so you need to do a kind of approach assessment in both quantitative and a qualitative way. Okay, so let's see. We have covered the tools, we have covered the phases, we have covered what is needed to justify. Okay, and okay, what is the other aspect you might think? See, I talked about tools, right? So from customer standpoint, what do you think they will ask you? See, if I go and say I'm going to use, for example, Carbonite or Zerto or Azure Migrate for migration, what might be the question you think the customer will ask?
Mm,
Just think, okay, see, you guys are more senior people, right?
Uh,
Everyone,
Maybe
yeah,
security of
probably the mm, approach for the migration or whatever the
okay,
read
fine,
cloud from
approach,
or things.
okay,
Because
approach.
the for example we have 1,000 application, and we have to segregate the four quadrant kind of business critical, non-business critical, and
Mm-hmm,
some of the things that we have to don't touch for the immediate migration, because
mm-hmm,
some of things we have to migrate for immediately, then some of things no need to migrate for some time,
mm-hmm.
and those things we have to probably the business clients they are looking for.
Correct. So those are all something which we are talking about the approach, right? So what I'm asking
Yeah,
here is,
yeah,
see, I'll tell you. So the approach is already covered. So licensing details they will ask, how much licenses is needed, what
yes,
kind of cost is involved, and very important thing that will ask is whether we need to deploy any agent, or whether it is a agentless migration, or whether it is a agentless discovery, or whether it is a assessment that you are going doing, whether it needs any additional security ports to be opened, or any kind of security changes need to be happen, or what kind of impact these tools are going to bring in. So that is what the customer will be understanding, right? They want to be
mhm,
prepared, they want to understand the readiness, what is the cost estimation, what in order to do the dependency mapping and analysis. See, you cannot just like that seeing at the environment, you cannot understand anything. You need to put together some
yeah,
tools, you need to put together some integration, then only you will be able to do it. So that's where you need to understand which tools listed here are agent and agentless. See, for example, I will say like Azure Migrate is the primary tool which we are going to use, right? So Azure Migrate can work agent based or agentless based on the source environment. If it is VMware or Hyper-V, or if it is AWS, so some can be done agentless, some can be done agent with the agent. Similarly, current technology, it can be again agent based and agentless. There are two options that are also provided. And if you're talking about unified cloud, it also provides you agent and agentless option. So move here, same thing. Zerto, same thing. Okay, so you have different tools which can help you to migrate the workload with agent and agentless. See, current technology is mainly primarily agentless. That is the most robust tool. Okay, for server migration and all, either it is VMware or Hyper-V or physical or other cloud, these technology will support all of them. That is another thing, right? Whether we need to use different tools for different technology, then that also will be a question from the customer, whether the coverage or the scope, whether we need to use multiple tools or one tool will cover all of them. So this will cover all of them. Okay, so current technology will be agentless, and it will cover almost VMware, Hyper-V, physical, other public cloud, and so on. And on the other side, whether it will cover Windows, Linux, and other workload. Okay, so even the current technology, it will cover Windows, Linux, and Unix also. Some Unix also can be migrated and cut over in with minimal downtime. And if you talk about the Carbonite and other tools, it is again okay, Carbonite is agent based, it doesn't support agentless. Okay, so that's where there are some tools which might be challenging. So there are some specific tools. Okay, Rackware is there, right? So Rackware we generally use for some specific workload. For example, if I have a Zen virtualization, or if I have a KVM virtualization, if I want to migrate it to Azure, then Rackware is a very powerful tool. Okay, so some for some technology, some organization provide you specialized tool. Rackware is primarily helpful for Zen virtualized virtual machine or KVM VMs. Okay, for those you can use Rackware. Similarly, there are some tools which can be used for some specific purposes. So Carbonite can be definitely used for all of these. Okay, VMware, Windows and Linux, all those things. Okay, you need to understand their approach, understand the licensing cost information, whether it is agent or agentless, or what kind of impact we need to change, what kind of changes we need to do, whether the data will be going out of the data center, data will be taken out of the data center, or whether they will be doing the assessment and storing the data within the data center. So all these questions as a customer, they will ask you. Okay, we need to provide answers. What kind of, for example, someone will say like, I have a lot of SUSE Linux server, whether your tool will support. So we need to tell like, yeah, these tools like Corentech and Carbonite, all these things will support SUSE Linux. So you need to identify the compatibility. Okay, so the approach, whether the versions are supportable, how many tools we need to do, the coverage and stuff, right? So any other course, any other area which I'm missing here?
Yeah, data production policies also we have
Mhm,
to. There is one of the thing because some
mhm.
of the data we can't store it in some regions due to some security purpose, right?
Okay, correct. Okay, that is true. Okay, so okay, good. So these are the important aspects we need to kind of discuss with the customer. Okay, so this is another important thing. Okay, so before we get into the migration, or we have completed the discovery and assessment, and we are doing a planning. So during the planning, we can also fast track or help migration to succeed or complete much quicker. So what kind of things you will do during the planning phase? I know like the planning is mainly to prioritize and all those things, but still, okay, so what we will do is we'll go and do a prioritization. Okay, which environment will go first, whether it is a dev or UAT or test, or what environment we can do first, and then which environment can go next, and all those things. Okay, so development, staging, UAT, pre-prod, and then prod. So it will be like ordered in such a way, and we will also have which applications will go first, and which applications will go next, and so on. And we'll also have which location will be targeted first, and which locations can be later done. So all those things, so this can help you to organize and prioritize the workload. But besides that, in order to improve the speed of migration, or in order to be successful, more successful on the migration during the planning phase, what are the best practices, or what are the different things you will do? Maybe like you guys might have done migrations, right? So what you will generally do in your on premises itself? Don't think about Azure cloud. So when you're migrating from one VMware environment to another VMware, like one lower version of VMware vSphere to another version of VMware vSphere, so what kind of things you will check?
Network availability, the
Okay, network
destination,
connection. Okay, network connection check. Okay,
storage,
okay,
Firewall enablement.
okay, okay,
compute capacity information.
hmm, okay,
And also kind of it's a non-functional kind of impact analysis that whatever the based on the assessment we have to analyze, is there
hmm,
any checkers or anything is there, or any failures, something we have to find out,
very good.
because
Okay,
sometimes
yeah,
we
that is
have to
true.
communicate external so that we'll face some issues.
Correct. Go ahead.
uh, Application licensing,
Very
maybe
good.
application versioning. Yeah.
Okay, okay, perfect. Go on.
And kind of the LDAP 80 and the authentication things.
Very good. Okay.
A kind of utility tools also, because sometimes you are using for utility tools some of the application for external utilities.
Yeah, good.
Backup server availabilities.
Okay. I think, yeah, you guys are doing well here.
Then
Okay.
performance tuning also the main part of the the practice. So yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
How do you do a performance tuning? You'll select some higher instance type, or like
Yeah,
you can
maybe we
also
can
give more space and so on. Okay,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
think
we can
you guys
say
have covered a lot of area. Okay, so what you can generally do is you can go and clean up the temp files. Okay, before the migration, you can go and clean up unnecessary application, clean up unnecessary temp files, clean up unnecessary apps or software or services from the system, so that it can avoid any impacts while you are migrating. You can also go and temporarily suspend AV or anti-malware during migration, so that the virus can or migration will not impact your migration, and complete the backup before migration, so that the migration should not run during the backup. We have to validate whether verify whether backup is successful and completed already. We should not have any conflict with any scheduled tasks or cron jobs or whatever, right? Based on your operating system, you should check whether any scheduled task will run during the migration or cron jobs will run during the migration. We also need to understand the encryption setup, whether they have got any current SSL encryption for their application, or any kind of encryption for their data, and all those things. We can kind of try to see whether we can move those things. And also we need to check whether if there is any unwanted services which are running, or if there is any um, disabled services, or we need to check like what kind of configurations are there. Okay, so that is important. And some people told about the, I mean, Ganesh told about the network connection check, right? It's not just about whether the connectivity is all or not is available. Also, we need to check the speed. We need to check the duplex settings. We need to check what kind of MTU size it is there. Okay, all these things. And also we need to check whether there is any bandwidth throttling that has been enabled by the networking team. Okay, we need to understand how the traffic flows during off business hours, whether we are going to use backup and migration in parallel. Okay, so these are all some specific things we can do. And also we can verify whether we have the necessary permissions and all those things. So maybe I will say permission check will come first, along with network storage and other things. So we need to verify whether we have the right level of permissions and so on. Okay, so you guys are okay with this admin permission or role-based access availability? Okay, anything which you feel missing? So these
monitoring.
are
Is there
okay.
any
Yeah,
place on
monitoring, patching, all those stuffs we can enable at a later stage. After the migration, we can optimize, govern. So during the migration, what are the things that can help you to make sure you are doing the things quicker, faster, and all those things, right? So as you said, like some firewall checks can be done, but also you can go and disable Windows firewall or IP tables at least during the migration, suspend or disable, right? So that can also help you avoid any kind of issues or data copying. We can check which ports are connected, which protocols are connected, and these things. Anything which I'm missing? Should we go and check the snapshot status? Should we go and check, should we do a snapshot cleanup before migration? You might have to do that, right? And we have to understand what kind of drivers we have, what kind of firmware we have. In some cases, like if it is a VMware environment to Azure, there might be some agents, or there might be some tools, drivers, firmware. When I say drivers firmware, I'm referring to if it is a physical, it's a physical driver firmware. If it is a VMware environment, it's like a VMware tools. Or if it is a Hyper-V, I'm referring to the integration services and all those things, right? It depends on server to server. We need to verify whether it has got all the latest drivers, agent, and firmware. Even you need to check whether you have the latest operating system upgrade. Okay, whether the applications are upgraded to the latest or OS patches are updated to the latest, because even that will also give you some challenges. Okay, we need to verify all these things. So before the migration, during the planning phase, if you are checking on these areas, you will be more successful in your migration. So if you need to understand all these aspects, whether there is any generation mismatch or what kind of migration we are going to do, whether it is IP based or whether we are involving DNS in between. So all these things are very important. Agree? You guys have any other points to cover or convey?
Yeah, add-ons also another important factor for application side. Stan.
Add-ons, huh? Okay.
Yeah, because
Okay.
some of the application we have specialized add-ons we are included. So if you
Mhm.
are missing, then application it won't run.
Got it.
Yeah.
So also you need to understand some kind of additional things also. See, we can go deep and deep. See, for example, some cases we might also check whether there is any proxy settings, because I have seen a lot of proxy systems are blocking the registration and migration, some download of agents and all those things. Okay, so I have seen some additional challenges also. But yeah, whatever diagnosis or whatever connectivity, which whatever I'm listed here, I think this should be okay. Yeah. Okay. Now let's come to the actual migration. Okay, we'll see the practical next week because it at least needs 2 or 3 hours. We'll when we come back next week, we'll directly jump into the migration and see how to migrate from AWS to Azure. Okay, but when you do the migration, okay, what there are chances that your migration might fail at different point of time, right? See, for example, let's say when my migration is failing within 5%, what exactly might be the issue? Any idea?
Network
Very
predominantly.
good. Predominantly network, then permissions, then agent conflict, or then driver version mismatch, or maybe like patches missing. So it might be like at the beginning, if it is missing, either it will be network or security permissions or some conflict. So mostly it might be a permission issue also. See, in 0 to 5%, it will try to do all the prerequisite check. It will always do the connections check. It will try and create a VM catalog. It will try to create a target VM. So it will try actually. It will not start creating it. It will be the initial prerequisite check. So if the migration fails from 5 to 7%, what might be the case? It might be preparing to clone the data. It will go and do a disk check. Okay, it will go and do a volume check. If there is any disk level issues, then the migration will fail in 5 to 7%. This is a pre-clone activity, or preparing to clone, or preparing to copy the data or migrate the data. It is preparation stage. Okay, how about 7 to, or I'll say 7 to 90% or 95%? It might be a disk issue or a network issue. Okay, here we are starting to do a cloning, copying, or migrating, or doing a snapshot. We are just doing the actual activity. So it will be a disk level issue, or some network interruption might have happened, or you are not getting enough bandwidth to migrate, or something has changed on the disk. Someone has started attaching it to somewhere else, or the disk has become it has got a lock or something like that. It will be on the disk level. How about 95 to 97%? See, I'm just giving you a high level approach on what aspect you need to verify when there is a failure in these percentages. So at 95 to 90%, what might be the problem? It might be reconfiguration. So the destination side, there might be some agent installation that is going on, or some reconfiguration changes in instance size. So those things are maybe not supported or whatever on the destination side. So last 97 to 99%, what might be the issue? It might be the customization that you have given. Okay, so whether you want to add any additional tools or add-ons or extensions or whatever you have selected, okay, those might fail in the customization. See, when your migration reaches this particular 97% or 99%, you can consider that as a success because you have already got the system on the destination side. So it is trying to do some kind of additional reconfiguration or customization on the destination side. So you can go and manually bring up the system. Okay, the last percent, 99 to 100%, is the final server power up. It will install the destination tools, drivers, and it will power on the system. Okay, even if it doesn't work, you can go and manually do and power it on. So if it reaches 97 itself, your migration is almost successful. You have a lot of chances that you can go and bring the system in a manual way instead of an automated way. You can also bring it in a manual way. See, this is the way you have to troubleshoot your migration activity. Okay, so you have to check the permission, you have to check the network, you have to check the patches, drivers, you have to check the disk level, then all these aspects. If you are troubleshooting with this kind of mindset and on top, then you'll be able to easily get closer to the troubleshooting or get closer to the issue. Okay, any specific questions so far from anyone? Okay, if not, maybe we'll conclude the session little early today. Okay, so since we have seen Azure to Azure, one region to another region site recovery, I think that should be sufficient. Next week, we will start seeing how to migrate AWS to Azure, how to migrate a server from AWS to Azure. Similarly, how to migrate a database from on-prem to Azure. Okay, and we'll see the application little later. Okay, next week we are going to see these practical things. And okay, so now it's time for questions. Okay, and I think some of you have started asking questions earlier. If I have not answered it, please feel free to ask now. Already you guys are overloaded with information. Huh? You are waiting for time to take your lunch. You have something special at home.
Stan,
Go ahead.
so
Yeah.
We have seen the server migration, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what will be the solution for if we are migrating storage that is
That's
comes
what
under
data,
the
right? Yeah,
data
data.
box or data edge based on our
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. That is true.
Stan, do you have any tools for apps migration?
Yeah, apps migration also it's there. That is again Azure. See, there are different things. Okay, so if you're talking about migrating only the application layer, see you have multiple layer,
Okay.
right? You have the VM, you have the OS, you have the application. If you want to bundle the application, if you want to package it and unpack it on the destination, then there are tools like App Zero and other things. Even Azure Migrate also has its own proprietary app assessment and migration tool within Azure Migrate.
Okay.
Okay, so App Zero is a tool. What it will do is, see, you have a kind of server, right? So you have a server, you have a virtual machine, you have a OS, you have the application. So in this application, the App Zero will only bundle the application. It will pack it and it will go and unpack it on the destination. So only the application will be migrated. It can be
Okay.
sometimes you can migrate it from Linux to Windows, or it can be migrated from 32-bit to 64-bit. It will be just like application packaging and unpackaging concept. So App Zero is mainly used in many organizations, but even Azure Migrate also gives you some option to migrate from on-premises server to Azure Web App or Azure App Services and all those things. Yeah, it's there. Options are there.
Okay. Sure.
Okay,
Stan,
go ahead.
just a scenario like,
Yeah.
for example, I'm migrating VM, which is in VMware, which has a couple of disks. One is for OS and the secondary one for application, right? So when I'm doing this migration, suppose the migration, both the disks, OS disk and the secondary disk, both will be actually migrated along with the server. Correct?
Yeah, it will be.
Is
It
it
will be
correct?
migrated
Right?
as
Okay.
a complete VM. Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay. So the second scenario is if I have the disk assigned, not actually on the VM level, but again, it's directly from the storage to the virtual machine, and
You
definitely
have to
the
prepare it. You have to convert it. Okay, so I am
mhm.
understanding that you are talking about RDM and those physical mode and
RDM
all those
disk.
things.
Yep.
Yeah, so see, you have to convert that before migration. So those are all something which will cause issues. So yeah, you need to check what kind of connections or what kind of compatibility it is. And yeah, I think the physical compatibility mode RDMs are kind of supported. If it is in virtual compatibility mode, it will raise problems. So you need to kind of uh, clone it or change it to a regular VST format and bring it to cloud. So there are challenges. Yeah, this is like some exception cases. Yes.
Got it. So
Yeah.
this is applicable for the physical server migration as well, right? For
Okay,
example, I
kind of,
don't
but
have.
yeah, it is going to bring you. See, only if it is RDM kind of thing, then there are challenges. Otherwise, I think physical server you can because physical server all the disks are coming from the storage only, right? It will work. It will work without any major challenges.
In case it has the dash storage attached, for
Oh,
example,
okay. If you are
Dell.
referring to that, then yeah, it will not work. See, for example, if you are talking about the NetApp file shares or dash storage directly attached to via SCSI cable and they are mounted and something like that. So those are all will not also be applicable. Those will not. You have to kind of copy it to a normal regular storage and then
Mhm.
use it for migration.
So the prerequisites to be replicate the data from the storage
Yeah,
partition or maybe the storage volume to the local volume to be resided in the virtual machine level. That way,
correct. So you
the
need to clone
migration
it
can be.
and you need to prepare for the migration. Yes. You
Okay,
have to
got
copy or clone and then bring it to a compatible disk format or bring it to a hard disk format which is directly attached and can be migrated. Then you will be able to migrate it. So these are the things that you need to plan while planning the infrastructure. You have to get all these things done. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
just an example,
Mhm.
maybe a scenario from
Yes.
the OS standpoint. At this moment, CentOS 8 is not actually supported. It's end of life, right?
Hmm.
So uh, I have an application in CentOS 8
Hmm.
in on-prem, and if I want to migrate to Azure,
Hmm.
then it's not possible, right?
So even if you want to migrate a older operating system version, it is supported for migration. You will be able to migrate it and run it in the cloud, but there
Mhm.
won't be any updates or there won't be any support from the cloud vendor. There will be best effort support that will be tagged to those instances. So it is the pure play. I mean, it will be a pure play support only by the team or the organization who migrated that actually. See, if you are working for IBM, if you are migrated as IBM as an organization, so even if you are migrated to Azure or AWS, Azure or AWS is not going to provide you patches or updates or support for that. But IBM can provide a best effort support for those workload in a separate contract or in a separate agreement.
So technically, it's possible to
Technically
migrate.
possible, yes. Yeah.
Okay, right.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, if not, go and enjoy your lunch. Go and have a good rest of the day. Practice the backup, site recovery. All there is a lot of things you can practice during the week. So if you are focusing on specific topics which we are discussing in the weekend, you will not feel too much of things to practice. It's only a couple of few areas, right? So the entire week is there for you to practice, and come back with more questions. Next week we'll see the actual migration from non-cloud to cloud and database to cloud. Okay, so thank you for joining. I'll stop the recording.